Good afternoon. This is Victoria Beal with the Ohio LTAP Center, and we're very pleased to be partnering with the Office of Diversity and Inclusion concerning today's Civil Rights and Labor Subcontractor Payment Reporting webinar, also known as Prompt Payment Reporting. And we have with us today as a presenter, AASHTOWare, who will be going over the actual webinar contents with you. But I wanted to give you a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. First off is that we are attempting to record this webinar. If we're successful, we will definitely send a link out to the recording to everyone who had registered to participate. If we're not successful, it's a good thing you're on here, so you'll be able to get the information firsthand. Also, we do plan to send out a copy of the presentation to everyone who had registered after the webinar is complete. And we are going to definitely take questions, but Await has asked that we be able to get through his entire presentation, including the software demo he's going to do for you before we actually move into answering those questions. So hopefully you're seeing the GoToWebinar chat pod that's available, and you can go in there and ask whatever questions you have, such as one that Kim Hall just asked about not having audio. I'll respond to her in just one second, but you definitely should have audio right at this point. And if you don't, I would definitely check your settings on your computer. But ask your questions and we will respond to them. If they're technical in nature, probably technical meaning technical capabilities of the webinar right away, or if they're more geared towards what Await is presenting, we'll respond to those at the end. And if we run out of time, we're also going to provide out a documented question and answer document once we have all of those questions as well. So with that, I believe that's all I've got for you. Await, are you ready to move forward?
I am ready.
Thanks.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Hope you can see my screen here. Welcome to the Civil Rights and Labor Subcontractor Payment Reporting webinar. My name is AASHTOWare. I'm a business analyst with the Office of Business and Economic Opportunity here at ODOT. And I'll be doing the presentation today. So our agenda, we'll go over the introduction and purpose. We'll discuss what AASHTOWare Project Civil Rights and Labor is, prompt payment, the payment requirements, and FHWA 1273, and how we actually enter payments in CRL. We'll have a demonstration of that, and then we'll have reports that we also have available for your use, and we'll discuss those as well. And then we'll go through payment affidavits, contact information, and then questions and follow-up. So that's the agenda. So the introduction and purpose. The purpose of this webinar is to inform prime contractors and subcontractors on ODOT-let construction projects on how to record payments in CRL for the purpose of being in compliance with contractual requirements and FHWA regulations. So a notice to industry was sent back in December 12th of 2019. The notice included prime contractors working on contracts that include Proposal Note 31 shall be compliant with entering and signing all previously made subcontractor payments for the current active projects by February 1st, 2020, and by continuing to enter and sign subcontractor payments as they are made. 2 previous notifications to the industry were sent, one on January 9th, 2016, and one on June 29th of 2017. So let's go ahead and discuss AASHTOWare Project Civil Rights and Labor. First, we'll go over what is AASHTOWare Project. AASHTOWare Project is a web-based enterprise system for managing the construction contract lifecycle from estimation to construction. It's designed by transportation professionals to transportation professionals. It has external access capability, and that's what we'll be presenting today in today's demo. When I actually go through the demonstration part, I'll show you as you log in from an external user, from a prime contractor and a subcontractor. It has mobile app capability for field use, cloud hosting availability, and it's 30 years in production. So what you see here on your screen are the different modules of AASHTOWare project. They're all stored on a simplified, unified database using single standard security model, and captures information at the source, and also has reporting capability from various modules. And the module that we'll be focusing on in this webinar is the AASHTOWare project Civil Rights and Labor. That's where you record your payments and sign your payments. So AASHTOWare project is also used by 50 agencies, including Washington, D.C. and 2 Canadian provinces. So CRL, Civil Rights and Labor, is a module within AASHTOWare project that allows effective administration of an agency's external civil rights and labor compliance activities. So contractors, both primes and subcontractors, use CRL to submit electronic subcontractor payment information. So this will escalate the decommissioning of paper-based payment affidavit process. And we'll be discussing payment affidavit as well further in the presentation today. So prompt payment. So after ODOT makes a payment to the prime contractor for work on a contract, the prime contractor is in turn responsible for paying its subcontractors. So when the prime has paid the subcontractors, those subcontractors are also responsible for paying their own subcontractors or tier subcontractors. So the prompt payment requirement comes from Proposal Note 31. The Code and Federal Regulations 4926.29 requires that ODOT establish a mechanism to monitor prompt payment requirements to all subcontractors. Additionally, Ohio Revised Code 4113.61, the timeline limitations on payments to subcontractors and materialmen establish payments must be made within 10 calendar days after receipt of payment from the owner. The prime contractor will notify the department it has complied with prompt payment requirements set forth in Construction Material Specification 107.21, utilizing civil rights and labor. The prime contractor will enter subcontractor payments within 10 calendar days of payment from ODOT. Regarding retainage, promptly release any retainage held as set forth in any subcontractor or supplier agreement within 10 days of department's acceptance of work involving the subcontractor or supplier from whom retainage has been held. For the sole purpose of establishing a time frame for the release of subcontractor or supplier retainage, acceptance of subcontractor or supplier work will occur when the subcontractor or supplier has complied with requirements 109.12 A, B, and C. So FHWA 1273, the form FHWA 1273 is required on all federally aid construction contracts. So it must be physically incorporated, not referenced in all contracts, subcontracts, and lower tier subcontracts. It excludes purchasing orders, rental agreements, and other agreements for supplies or service related to a construction contract. So ODOT physically incorporates 1273 in all federal aid contracts, and subsequently the prime contractor must meet this contractual obligation by placing 1273 in all subcontractor and supplier contracts that it enters into, and further require that all subcontractor and supplier placed the same in each of the lower tiers contracts as well. So during the sign-in process for prompt payment, that's in CRL, the primes and subs can acknowledge receiving a physical copy of Form 1273. And during the demonstration, I'll also be showing this as well. So here is actually a screenshot of what you'll see in CRL, in Civil Rights and Labor, when you acknowledge 1273. So the text is by default entered in to the comments field by verifying the subcontractor payer certified has received a physical copy of Form 1273. So please note that if it's a contract that is 100% state funded, to go ahead and remove this text, the Form 1273 acknowledgement text. And if you're not sure, if you're working on a federally funded project, you can go ahead and remove that as well. And so this text here is what actually the prime contractor will be seeing when they go to sign the payment. Likewise, the subcontractor, when they go to verify the payment in CRL, they'll get a similar text here that's entered in for verifying that the subcontractor payment, the payee certified has received a physical copy of Form 1273. And if it's a 100% state funded contract, you could go ahead and remove this text. Okay, entering and signing payments in CRL. So the overall workflow is the prime contractor will enter the subcontractor payments for work the subcontractors have performed for each estimate payment and sign the subcontractor payment. Then the subcontractor will go ahead and review the receipt of that payment and verify that receipt. And then the agency, specifically the contract compliance officer, would review the subcontractor payment transaction, and then that completes the process. So at this time, what I'll do is actually go through a live demonstration by logging into the application and show you how the payments are recorded and signed from a prime's perspective, then also from a subcontractor perspective of how the payments are verified. So I'm going to switch to the application now. I'm actually using a training environment to log into. You will be using the actual production environment if you already have access or are needing access. But for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm using a training environment. And so you'll go ahead and enter your username. My username here is pcontract. You'll go ahead and enter your password. And then also when you log in, please make sure you're using ODOT Online. So I'll go ahead and log in. So while I'm logging in here into AASHTOWare project, since it is a training environment, it takes a little bit longer than what you would see normally in the production environment. So we'll give it a minute here, and once it gets logged in, we can proceed forward.
Oh, wait, this is
Okay.
Victoria. Oh, there it goes. I love these training environments. Sometimes they do take a little more time, don't they?
They
Just
do.
as a quick reminder to everybody, we'll be responding to the questions you're putting into the chat pod at the end of the presentation today, but please still go ahead and enter them. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Victoria. Okay, so I'm logged in now here, and you can see the home screen. And once you log in, you want to make sure that you're using the correct role. And if you open up the drop-down arrow right next to the home button, you'll see the role here. The one that I have checked is ODOT contract subpayment. That's the note role you need to use in order to record your payments and also as a subcontractor when you're verifying your payments. So if you do not have this role, you can contact CRL support, and then further in the presentation, I'll be providing you the contact information. So on the home page, you want to go ahead and enter in your actual contract that you're working on. You want to enter the contract ID under in the search box under the contract overview. So I'm going to go ahead and enter my contract ID, LAK 8799. Okay, and then you can see the contract is displayed here with the actual contract ID and the prime ID and the prime name. So I'm actually logged in here in this demonstration as the prime contractor, Cocosin Construction Company. So once I have the actual contract displayed here, I want to go ahead and click on the contract ID. Okay, and you can see the actual estimates that are available here. So we're going to go ahead and record a payment on estimate number 2. So I'll go ahead and click estimate 2. And then you get to the contract payment summary page. And you can see the estimate here is 2. It's the estimate type is in progress. And the paid amount on this estimate is 642,764.90. And the previous total, 618,217.90. And then you can see the actual total paid amount to date, which is the paid amount plus the previous total paid amount as well. So in order to actually record the payment, you want to go ahead and click on the Subcontractor Payments tab. And right now we don't have currently any payments recorded. So we'll want to go ahead and click on the link for Add Subcontractor Payment from Prime. And then you'll get this screen here for adding the subcontractor payment. One thing that's really helpful while you're adding, if you're not certain what a specific field is, you can click on the actual tooltip or hover over the actual label and it launches a tooltip. So for example, the payee is the actual reference vendor ID for the vendor receiving a payment from another vendor or on this subcontractor payment. So we're going to go ahead and enter our payee. And for this demonstration, I'm going to use Lake Erie Construction Company. Okay, and then you can see here that Lake Erie Construction Company pops up. And so go ahead and click that. And then you can see the vendor ID as well. Now I want to enter in the payee payment number. And this is, if you click on the actual label, it's the identifier to the payment made to a subcontractor by the prime contractor on the contract. So since I'm using estimate 2, I'm going to have to start with 2. And since it's the first payment, I'll go ahead and put in 201. Now the date paid, I'm going to use yesterday's date just for the sake of the purpose of the demonstration, even though I'm entering it in today. And then the payment type, I'm going to go ahead and say it's the final payment here. And then the payment amount, I'm going to go ahead and put in amount here, 12,500. Now, if you have retainage that you are holding back, any funds that you're holding back, you want to go ahead and include that retainage here in the paid amount. For example, if the actual amount was 13,000 and I had retainage of 500, I would go ahead and enter in 12,500. So I'm going to go ahead and enter 12,500, and then I'm going to go ahead and say that the payee work indicator is complete. And you can see here, I'm currently, the record is not saved. So I want to go ahead and save this record. and by pressing on the Save button here. And now the subcontractor payment has been successfully saved. And we're ready to move forward with actually signing the payment. So if you go ahead and click on the link here for contract payment, and then go ahead and click on the link for subcontractor payments, you can see the actual payment that was recorded here. And you can see that it was, the payer was Kokosin Construction Company, and the payee was Lake Erie Construction Company. And this was the payee number that I entered in, and the date paid, and the actual amount as well. So we'll go ahead and move forward with actually signing the payment. On this payment, if you open up the row actions menu, which is this upside down triangle, you can see here the actual link to sign subcontractor payment. One thing to note here is if you inadvertently enter the wrong amount or wrong date paid or anything that was inadvertently entered, you can actually delete that payment before signing it. So if you see something here that doesn't look correct, you would go ahead and select delete and then press the save button. But once you sign the payment, you would not be able to delete it. So I'll go ahead and select sign subcontractor payment. And the actual signing process is a 3-step process. Okay, so the review process actually displays here a subcontractor payment report. And then scrolling down in the subcontractor payment report, you'll see the section there for subcontractor payment. And you can see the actual payee vendor, paying vendor, and the payee ID. And then the payee payment number that I entered in as well, and the actual payment date, and then the actual paid amount. So I'll go ahead and go to the next step here in the process by clicking the right blue arrow. And then you can see the verification text here. And it will display your name here when you go through the verification process. And then I'll go ahead and scroll down and then click the right blue arrow again. Now I'm ready to sign here, but as I mentioned previously, the text for AASHTOWare 1273 by default is automatically included in the comments field. So if it's a state-funded project, 100% state-funded project, you would want to go ahead and delete this default text. Okay, so for this contract, I'll go ahead and sign the payment by clicking Sign Payment. Okay, so now we have successfully signed the subcontractor payment, as the message reads here. One thing you can also do is you can go into the endorsements, and you can see here that I've signed the payment as well. But you'll see here that the payee hasn't reviewed it. And so that will be our next step. We'll go ahead and log in as a subcontractor and go ahead and review this payment. So I'm going to log in as my subcontractor. And again, when you log in, please make sure you're using ODOT Online. And we'll go ahead and press the login button.
Oh, wait, I was gonna, while you're logging back in, I want to ask if anyone who's called in on their phone line, if you could please make sure that your phone line is muted. We are getting some background noise because not everyone's put in an audio pin who called in on their phone line. We would appreciate it just so we can keep the background noise down for everyone who is participating in the webinar. Thank you.
Okay, so now that we're logged in as a subcontractor, it looks very similar to what the prime contractor sees. And again, you'll want to use the row ODOT contractor subpayment, the one that's checked here. So we'll go ahead and enter in the same contract ID that we used as a prime contractor, LAK 87799, and our contract is displayed here. So if you click on the contract ID, and you can see we have a couple estimates displayed here that have been recorded to us from the prime contractor. So we'll go ahead and click on estimate 2 because that's the one that we just had entered in from the prime contract's perspective. And then you can see again, very similar to what the prime contractor see, the actual paid amount, the previous total paid amount, and the total paid to date amount. So you want to go ahead and click on the subcontractor payments link. And then you can see the actual payment here that we made from the prime contractor now to the subcontractor. So the subcontractor will want to go ahead and verify this payment. Again, by open up the row actions menu for that payment record. And then you want to go ahead and select the option verify payment. Okay. And now you also see here the subcontractor payment report. And this is what the subcontractor will see. They'll see that they were paid $12,500 for this estimate. And then I can also scroll down, and then over to the right, they want to go ahead and click the right blue arrow. And then you want to go ahead and verify the receipt. So again, if you go ahead and highlight over the actual labels, it gives you the options of what you can select here. So if you have 3 options here, the payment received, no, yes as expected, yes not as expected. So if you select yes not as expected, you want to go ahead and enter in a comment of why it was not as expected. So we'll go ahead and say yes is as expected. The payment was received. We received $12,500. And we want to go ahead and select our date received. So we'll go ahead and select today's date. And then again here, we have the acknowledgement for FHWA 1273. And if it's a state contract, 100% funded by the state, you want to go ahead and remove this text. And then we'll go ahead and check that the payee's work on contract complete is checked. And then we'll go ahead and click the right blue arrow further down to the lower right. And then we're ready to go ahead and submit our verification by clicking the button. And then as the subcontractor now, I have verified that subcontractor payment. Now, if we go back to our endorsements here, you can see here the actual signed by the prime contractor, and also the payee has reviewed by the subcontractor. So your usernames as a prime contractor and subcontractor would actually be displayed here when you're actually recording those payments in the production environment. Okay, so now that we've recorded our payment from our prime contractor to our subcontractor and have verified that, we might also have a payment to our tier subcontractor. So we might have Lake Erie Construction having a subcontractor. So we can record that payment as well. So if you want to, go ahead and click on the contract payment. And then we'll go ahead and click on the subcontractor payments link. And for this same estimate, we'll want to go ahead and open up the row actions menu. And then you'll see here we had add new payment from payee. And then we'll go ahead and enter in our tiered subcontractor payee. I'm going to choose Rath Builders. So you can see it's displayed here, and the payee number here, we're going to go ahead and enter that as 202, and we'll go ahead and say its paid date is today, and the paid type, we're going to make this one as a progress, and we're going to go ahead and say we paid them $800. And so since it's a progress, we're not going to go ahead and check the payee or complete indicator. Now we want to go ahead and save this payment record. And then again, you want to go ahead and click on the contract payment tab up at the top. And then if you click on the subcontractor payments tab to the left, and you can see here, we have the two records. We had the one from the prime contractor, and then now we have the one from the subcontractor to our tiered subcontractor. And then similarly, we want to go ahead and open up the row actions menu. And then as a subcontractor, we want to go ahead and sign the subcontractor payment. And we'll go through our three-step process here by reviewing the subcontractor payment report. Then you'll go scroll down and then go ahead and click the right blue arrow. And then you'll go through your verification text here. And then scroll down again and click the right blue arrow. And then again, you have your AASHTOWare 1273 acknowledgement text as well. And so we're ready to go ahead and sign this payment to our tiered subcontractor. And then again, if you view the endorsements, you'll see that the subcontractor has recorded the payment and has signed it. So now we need to go ahead and log in as the tiered subcontractor and verify this payment that the subcontractor has made to us. So I'll go ahead and log off. And I'm going to go ahead and log in as my tiered subcontractor. And then I'll go ahead and enter in the contract ID, LAK 8799. Okay, and I'll go ahead and click on the contract ID here. Now we'll go ahead and click on estimate 2, because that's the estimate that we just recorded the payment on. And then click on the link, subcontractor payments. And now you can see here the actual payment from Lake Erie Construction Company to our tiered subcontractor, Rath Builder Supply Incorporated. So you can go ahead and open up the row actions menu. And then you want to go ahead and verify payment. And then we'll go through our process of verifying the payment. The tiered subcontractor will see the subcontractor payment report with the details that was entered. And go ahead and scroll down to the bottom and click the right blue arrow. And then we're going to go ahead and say payment received. We'll go ahead and say yes as expected. Amount was $800 and the date received was today. But we're not going to check the payee's work on contract complete because we're not complete yet, but for this contract. And then again, the AASHTOWare 1273 acknowledgement text, you would remove that if it's a 100% state-funded contract. And then click the right blue arrow, and then go ahead and press the submit verification button. Okay. And then if you need to, you can always go to your endorsements here and see if your payment has been signed and also been reviewed. One thing I'd like to also show you is a subcontractor payment report. So if you're back on the contract payment summary, you can click on the subcontractor payments link and then open up the row actions menu. And you can see here is a report for subcontractor payment. And this is visible for all the prime contractor, the subcontractor, and the tiered subcontractor. So you'll get to this screen here, and you can just go ahead and select the option here, generate as PDF, and then press the execute button. And very similar to what you saw when you went through the process of signing and verifying, it will display here a subcontractor payment report. Again, since we're in a training environment, it looks like it's taking a little bit of time.
Wait, while
Okay.
you're waiting for that to download, would you be interested in taking a few questions?
Yes, I can.
Okay. There's one that came in that's very related to what you've been demonstrating. It says, how do you know whether it's 100% funded by the state and to remove the text in the box?
It should be on your contract that you received, whether you're the prime contractor or whether you're the subcontractor. Okay, looks like we're experiencing some slowness here with launching the subcontractor payment report, but it does launch. I'm not sure what's not launching right now in the training environment, but I will look into that further. So I'll go ahead and close this for now. Okay, so that is the demonstration part of this webinar, from the actual logging of payments, recording payments, and signing payments from the prime contractor, and verifying payments as a subcontractor, and recording payments to your tiered subcontractor as well. So we'll go ahead and log out of my system right now. I'm going to go ahead and go back to my slide deck here. One thing I do want to note here is we are looking into adding a withholding tab when we record our payments, so that if you do have retainage, as I mentioned right now, we would want to include those in the paid amount if you're holding back retainage, but we are looking to add a withholding tab into the application, and it's going to look very similar to what you see here. So once it is enabled, we'll have the withholding tab available for you, and then where you would actually include the actual retainage dollars held, and then you would actually indicate if it's a payment or partial amount withheld indicator, and then you would actually put in your comments as well. Once this is available and within the application, it's not currently, but once it is, we'll go ahead and send out a notice to the industry that this tab is available if you are holding it in retainage. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go back to my slide deck here. And once these slide decks are available to you, there are screenshots very similar to what I had presented when I had walked through the application as well. Okay, let's go ahead and discuss a couple of reports that are available for you. So there are two reports available. The first one here is for prime contractors for actually viewing the contracts for missing subpayments and or signatures. So the payment report URL is available here on the screen, and you would enter in your vendor ID here where it says please enter your vendor code and press the view report button. Now, if you see anywhere where you have red, that means that a estimate is available, but no payment records have been made on that estimate. And if you see anywhere where it's yellow, then the actual payment has not been signed yet. So this report is available for you at any time you need to use. It's a great way for you to track as a prime contractor which payments that you need to make your record your subcontractor payments on. So ODOT will be regularly monitoring this for missing payment records and may contact you if there are a significant amount of records for a particular contract with no payments are recorded. So please do use this report. And then very similar, there's also a report that's available for the subcontractor to view missing signatures. The URL is located here on this slide. And then if there are payments that are recorded and that just need to be verified from a subcontractor, you will go ahead and see those. You would go ahead and enter your vendor code here in the field where it says please enter your vendor code and press the view report button. And then again, you'll get a very similar report as you see here. Okay, so we talked about payment affidavits briefly here in the webinar. So payment affidavit is the affidavit seeks to verify actual payments made to DBE firms on projects. So each DBE firm must verify the actual payment amount. So the current process, it works with the prime contractor submits to DBE subcontractor the notarized interim and final affidavit. The DBE subcontractor signs and notarizes the interim and final affidavit and returns to the prime contractor. The prime contractor submits all the DBE interim and final affidavits to the ODOT DBE goal attainment manager. So this process is currently in place, and we want to go ahead and retain this process at this time. Once ODOT has seen that there is a significant amount of records that are recorded in CRL, then we may notify the industry that the payment affidavits will not be needed. But you want to go ahead and continue doing the process as it is. So what's the difference between payment affidavits and CRL? So payment affidavits are only submitted for DBEs, and payment affidavits do not allow ODOT to monitor prompt payment, whereas CRL captures all payments to all subcontractors, both DBE and non-DBE. Okay, as I mentioned previously, we do have contact information. So CRL support, please note the email address, dot.crl.support@dot.ohio.gov. So if you're in need of getting access to CRL for recording subcontractor payments, go ahead and email CRL support indicating that you need access, and then we'll respond back with further instructions on getting you onboarded. There's also a CRL resource website. The URL for that is http://transportation.ohio.gov/CRL. Then if you have any specific questions for your contract compliance officer for the contract that you're working on, you can also contact them, and their information is located at the URL provided here. Also on the Civil Rights and Labor Information Resource website, we do have Ohio DOT reference materials. If you scroll to that section, you'll see a link to the subcontractor payments. It's an interactive training guide, and it's very similar to what I presented here today. The guides are written with the previous version, 2.0. The functionality is very similar to what I presented to it, just the user interface looks a little bit different. Note that these interactive guides you need to use Internet Explorer and have Adobe Acrobat Reader and Flash installed on your system. We do also have frequently asked questions about payment reporting. So the URL is presented here. Also, this link is available from the Civil Rights and Labor Information Resource site. If you scroll down to that section, and you'll see additional resources, and you'll see a link to the frequently asked questions about payment reporting. Okay, we also have a complaint hotline. Please note the telephone number and the email address for reporting DBE fraud, contracting fraud, prompt payment violations, and discrimination. With that, I guess we have some time for any further questions you may have.
Oh, and we've got quite a few for you. So,
Okay.
all right, we're going to start back off with the ones we received earlier in the hour. It says, does this only apply to construction primes, or will design primes continue with the current process?
So design primes are meaning the consultant services primes?
Yes.
Okay. So at this time, if they are onboarded on the CRL, then yeah, they would go ahead and record those payments.
Okay. Next
So if they are
question.
a vendor on CRL, then they're on that contract, and they would go ahead and record those payments.
Okay. Next question is the prime contractor responsible to pay the subcontractor before they have been billed for the project?
No, they would go ahead and record that payment after they receive their payment from ODOT. So after receive their payment from ODOT, they have within 10 days to record that payment out to the subcontractor.
But what if the subcontractor hasn't sent them that bill yet within the 10 days after they received the payment?
I'm not certain about that one. Let me
Okay, well, we
research
can
that,
come back
and
to that.
I can get
All
back
right.
to on that one. Yeah.
Is the paid amount entered with retainage only if final payment?
Not necessarily. It could also be on a progress payment as well. So the example I had just given was a final payment, but yeah, it could be both a final and a progress payment.
In CRL, does the prime need to enter the payment by line item or just the total check?
It's not required to enter it at the line item. You would enter it at the subcontractor payment level. So there was an items tab there, and but it's not required to enter it at the line item. And in a future release, we are looking to go ahead and remove that items tab. So
Okay.
it's only required to enter it at the subcontractor payment level.
All right. The next one is about retention and retainage again. It says include or not include retention and payment amount. I missed what he said. Looks like he left the retainage out. Can we use the check number for payment ID so we have an audit trail?
Yes, you can use the check number for the payment ID. It's a unique code that you want to enter in there, but the retainage amount is what you have retained from the actual payment. For example, I'll give an example there. If you had an actual payment, let's say of 13,000, and you were holding back 500, then you would put in the payment amount of 12,500.
And that kind of goes to this next question as well. If you include the retainage in the paid amount, it will be different than the amount the subcontractor actually receives. How will the subcontractor respond?
They'll go ahead and verify that payment. So if they know they're being retained a certain amount, they can still go ahead and indicate yes as expected. And then a further payment record could be made out from the prime contractor to the subcontractor, which includes the release of that retainage. So for example, if you had $500 you're retaining, you would record a second payment out to your subcontractor, which includes the release of that retainage.
Okay, the next question is again talking about how they find out if the job is 100% state funded, and I believe you'd said that that would be in their contract, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
And I can confirm with that and get back to you on that.
Yeah, well, we'll provide all these questions with your answers after you've had some time to look through them and provide some written answers. But
Sure.
just continuing to move through the list here, can you please explain when we should check the payee work completed box?
That's when the actual subcontractor or the tiered contractor has completed work on that specific estimate. You want to go ahead and check that box.
Next question. As a subcontractor, can I run a report showing all payments from primes that are open?
There is a report. I'll go ahead and provide that link in our follow-up on how to run that report.
Great. The next person said, how do I get a username and password? I used to have one, but it no longer works.
Okay, yeah, please go ahead and contact CRL support at the email address that was provided. And then if you need to get your password, we'll go ahead and provide you instructions on how to do that.
The next question is, now that this is required, we do not make the next payment if the subcontractor hasn't verified payment, question mark? I believe what they're asking is that if the subcontractor hasn't verified a payment, should they make the next payment?
Yeah, so as the prime, you would still want to go ahead and record those payments out to the subcontractor, even if they haven't verified a previous payment. So for example, if you're on estimate 2 and you're recording your payment and they haven't verified yet the payment on estimate 2 and you're recording another payment on estimate 3, they've completed or they've done the work and you've received your payment from ODOT, you'd still want to go ahead and record that payment on estimate 3.
And the next person wanted to know if they would be able to print your screenshots as a PDF to keep as a guide.
The PowerPoint slide?
I believe that's what they're referring to, since that's where you have screenshots
I
at.
believe they should have an option to do that from PowerPoint.
Yes, and then hopefully the recording of this webinar has worked and you'll even have a live demo. So,
Yeah.
Next question, how will a sub know when a GC has made a payment?
Yeah, so the system doesn't send a notification, but they can use that report that I presented. So they can actually go in there and see which payments that they need to sign or actually verify. But right now, the system doesn't send an auto notification. We are looking to have that enabled for a future release of CRL, where they would receive a notification that the prime has recorded the payment out to the subcontractor.
Next question. When entering previous payments made to date, do you have to figure out which estimate we were paid by ODOT, or can we just add all payments to date at one time?
So if the work was done on that estimate, you would want to go ahead and record it for that specific estimate. If there is like a supplier or trucker that's not linked to any specific estimate, you can go ahead and record that on estimate 1.
Next question. I typically use the check number in the payee payment number field. Is that acceptable?
Yes, you can, as long as it's a unique identifier.
Next question. Will these procedures be required for federally funded LPA projects?
So currently right now, this is only have ODOT-let contracts in CRL. LPA contracts are not currently available in CRL. We may be doing that in a future time, but not at this time.
What's the process if there is a dispute between prime and sub on whether payment was made or sub doesn't agree with amount?
Please go ahead and contact your contract compliance officer, and they can go ahead and get involved with the discussion. So
Next
that
question.
list was
Sorry.
provided there of contract compliance officers.
Okay, the next question. What happens if we just leave the FHWA 1273 text in if it's not supposed to be? Shouldn't the prime confirm this? It feels slightly redundant to have multiple tiers of subcontractors tasked with looking up the funding status. Status of each project. Just to be on the safe side, can we leave the text?
You can, as I mentioned, if it's a federally funded contract, you can go ahead and leave that text in there. But if it's state funded, you can go ahead and remove it. That is if it's 100% state funded. We are looking into a future release to go ahead and have that default text removed so that it's not included for each payment.
The webinar did not include the item reporting section. Is this part required?
Let me look into that. I'm not certain exactly what is meant by reporting section, but I can look into that and respond back.
Great. Next question. If a subcontractor is out of compliance with their payrolls, can the prime contractor delay payment until they are in compliance?
Okay, so with payrolls, you want to go ahead and discuss that with your prime contractor and contract compliance officer. This is specifically with payment reporting.
When a sub is paid, does the 10-day time limit restart for each sub?
Yes, so if sub is paid and they're paying out to their tiered subs, they want to go ahead and record those payments within 10 days after they've received payment from the prime contractor. So the prime is paid the sub, and then they'll have 10 days to record those payments out to their tiered subcontractor.
The next person would like to know, can you show us how the contract compliance officer reviews and approves the payments?
So they will not actually review and will not actually make any data entry in CRL, but they can review it in the endorsement section as well. So they can see who has actually entered the payment and signed the payment and the actual amount as well. They themselves can also run the subcontractor payment report, similar to what I was trying to show, but what you see when you actually verify the payment.
We have a few more minutes, so I'll read you a couple more questions here.
Okay.
How long does it take the prime to be paid?
Well, they would receive their payment from ODOT. I'm not certain exactly when that's done, but that's something I can follow up on.
Okay, and then the next question is, how are they going to enter the payment with retainage if they only received 900, but we are reporting 1,000?
So they received 900 from the prime contractor.
Looks like we
I
might want to
guess.
get a little more background from that individual on the question. We
Okay.
can follow up with them. So it looks like some of the questions are starting to repeat here. So we are with 2 minutes remaining, and we want to be respectful of everyone's time. So thank you very much, Await, for your excellent presentation today. And we definitely appreciate everybody's attention. And we apologize for any audio issues you may have had at the beginning. The phone line is definitely the answer to be able to hear the audio on these GoToWebinar webinars. So we encourage you to follow up if you have any additional questions, but we will be sending out a link to hopefully the recording and also the PowerPoint presentation that was used today, so you can have it for your files.